Hello everyone, welcome to my review of the GT Omega Racing Pro cockpit. This is the Supreme version I've got here. My name is Lee Thompson. If you don't know me, I am an ARL TV commentator on iRacing, providing weekly broadcasts and various series on there. And I'm also a driver for Apex Racing UK, again in iRacing. Hoping to get my pro license next season, season 3. Hopefully with a little bit of luck from this. For the last year or so, I've been running with a Wheelstand Pro and running in my lounge with my 40-inch TV. I've been really looking forward to being able to get a proper cockpit, taking over the spare room here, and I think my other half is going to be very happy to get me out of the lounge as well. You can find a couple of other reviews already for the GT Omega Pro on YouTube. They're for the V1 version, so you want to look at Inside Sim Racing and Sim Racing reviews, some really good in-depth reviews in there. The main difference in this V2 version is the triple monitor stand, which we'll get into a little bit more detail later on. So what we'll do is I'm going to start getting it all open and basically seeing how easy first of all it's going to be to put together. It needs to be quite easy for me. I'm quite poor at DIY, flat pack furniture, that sort of stuff, so hopefully it's going to be pretty straightforward. Hopefully there's no damage, hopefully everything's all in place, we shall see. And then also we'll look at the triple monitor stand in a little bit more detail, the differences in there. Main things with adjustability. I'm really looking forward to hopefully being able to get as close as possible to 180-degree field of view, whereas the V1 version there was really no adjustments that you can make on that, but we'll look at that once we get it open. Check out Todd Bettenhausen's YouTube video for the most efficient, the most realistic, for rather as well as look for, field of view that you want to get set up and how you can get your monitors. That's what I'm hoping to be able to do with this. We'll see if it's going to work out or not. And then depending on how I find getting it set up on iRacing, I may then do a little bit at the end as well, trying to help out with settings and things. We'll see how easy it's going to be to all get fired up. So for now, I'm desperate to get this all opened up and see what we've got, get stuck in. Right, well, as you can see, that is a serious amount of parts that we've got to put together now. Really, really well packaged. I mean, it took quite a while for me to get it all apart, but loads of bubble wrap. All looks like it's well protected. I haven't looked at everything in real detail, but so far I haven't seen any damage, any snags, or chipping to the paint finish or anything like that. So far it all looks as it should be. Right, now. Next problem then is starting to get it all together. Now, you don't get any instructions with the actual delivery. You've got to go onto their website to get the instructions, which I should have already. So there's two parts to it. You have the instructions for the cockpit itself, and then for the triple monitor stand from there. Looks like it should be relatively straightforward. Hopefully, looks pretty clear. I just need to start cracking on with it and see how easy it is to put together. Hopefully, it's all going to fit across this way. Facing to the wall there, we shall see. Right, let's see what happens. Okay, well, I've got my first slight headache. So according to the instructions on the PDF, I need to install the seat frame and sliders first. Now, Leo at GT Omega had emailed me already to tell me that they're already installed, which looks like they are. So it says seat frame and sliders. So you've got the seat frame there, sliders on top, all good. So according to his email and sort of looking at it, I should be able to skip that. So that's fine. So the next thing then is to mount the rear frame onto the seat frame using the bolts and bits and pieces provided. However, when I go to do that, which way is it orientated? That way. When I do that, it's too long. It just doesn't line up with. It's too wide. So obviously I'm missing something. So it's I'm sure it is supposed to go on in this way, but at the minute we're about this way too wide on the rear frame compared to the seat. So I'm not quite sure what it is that I'm missing at the minute. So it might just be that the rear frame flexes a little bit, so we shall see. So Did I put the bolts? Right, so that should be the bolts there. Let's see, it just can flex to meet into the sliding rails. So, not a great start. So trying to mount the rear frame to the seat. PDF says to use long M8 bolts, so I've got 4 of those. But, of course, if I try and mount it to the actual sliding rails, I try and put the bolt through there, then it's just going to foul the actual mechanism itself. So, again, probably just missing something, but yeah, this isn't quite as straightforward as I perhaps had hoped. You know, I said I'm not the most DIY kind of inclined, but even so, you know, if the instructions don't match the product, it becomes a little bit harder than perhaps it should be. But we'll keep filling for a minute, and perhaps I will twig what I'm missing. Okay, right, so it certainly seems secure. So it did, yeah, to be fair, the rear frame did come in quite happily, but yeah, I just didn't anticipate having to flex it in maybe. Not sure the bolts, being that they're the short ones rather than the long ones that were supposed to be used with it, I'm not sure how great the fit the heads would be in the holes, so it's maybe just pinched in a little bit. I don't know, we'll see. Feels secure, feels good, just hope then I didn't need those bolts for something else later on. Right, what next? Okay, so next slight headache. I've got a number of drilled holes, pre-drilled, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drilled holes. I've lined up my support bars vertically with the mount on the steering frame, but now actually it means I've only got space to bolt one of my M6 bolts for the wheel deck. So, in hindsight, again, I didn't have anything on instructions to maybe tell me how many I needed, but so what I need to do is I need to unscrew the mounts on the bottom, shift everything back one, so at the top and at the bottom and at the top, all back one, and then I can actually get the wheel deck in. So, so it's quite hard work getting these support bars in, because as I said, it created a lot of tension, and now I'm going to have to undo it all again and shift it back one. So, a bit annoying really. Probably getting on for an hour worth of time. Some of that is my own ineptitude, to be fair, but I don't know, things like this is a little bit annoying having to take it back apart again, because how would I know? It doesn't tell me it's got to be in a specific place. Right, well, welcome back everyone. Since you last saw me, I think I was having to take these support struts back apart after realising the wheel deck wasn't kind of quite going in place. So that, that's fairly straightforward. As I thought, I just needed to move them back one slot, locked it all back in, wheel deck quite happily secured then as well. It was much easier the second time, of course, because with hindsight, of course, I didn't secure completely the bolts here at the bottom, so there was a bit more flex everywhere, so I went in quite happily. So again, maybe if it was on the instructions not to secure everything, so you had that bit of movement so you could lock everything in, perhaps life would be a bit easier. But anyway, we figured it out, and it didn't take a huge amount of time, to be fair. Again, as I think I showed before, once it all locked in, I mean, this is such a solid base. I'm really, really impressed, and really, I'm surprised by how little movement. It's just no flex at all. It's it's more in the rug and the carpet. So we'll have a closer look at that a little bit later. Since you also saw me, you can obviously see I've done a few other bits and pieces as well. So we've got the keyboard swivel tray. That was nice and straightforward. That looking like it's going to work quite well. I can imagine I might end up just tweaking its position a little bit when I figure out my actual seating position a bit and get everything mounted on. I've got a gear support as well here, which probably can't quite see this keyboard tray in a way, but again that was really easy. And I discovered where I've now missed the short bolts which I used up in the seat here. So I've just used the long M8 bolts to bring out these two brackets, but actually that's not caused a problem anyway. They're both slotted in quite cleanly, not skew anything, not going to foul anything else. So we've got the monitor stand, so I'm just halfway through fitting up at the minute. You can see the adjustability that we're going to have in the outside monitors. So I'm just going to finish up my nose and we'll have a close look then at how much adjustability we're going to have. Okay, so I've just finished physically putting together the triple monitor stand for now. There's definitely going to be lots of adjustments needed to figure out exactly what positioning is, but in terms of the adjustability, well, it's looking pretty promising. So the outside two VESA mounts, you rotate 180 degrees left to right, and then articulate within that as well. So we've got our joint here in the middle. That looks like it will go 360 until it fouls something on the other side. And then we've also got tilt adjustment as well. So just in here, got a little just hand operated bolt, and then you can slide that up and down to get, I seem to remember the website saying around 15 degrees of tilt adjustment. So in terms of my hope and, well, essentially reason for getting this particular setup of trying to really have the monitors wrap right around me and get as close to 180 degrees as I can, hopefully it's looking fairly promising to start with. The other main adjustment, of course, is on the stand itself, by the way. So all I've got at the minute is a bolt pinching here, so I can adjust this, well, looks like till about halfway down, which would be way low as needed. So height should be whatever I need to do. This is as high as it will go, though I guess there may be some extension points somewhere. I've still got a few bits and pieces left over, but anyway, you wouldn't want it any higher. So next, I can start actually getting the hardware. I think the next thing I'm going to do is get the monitors on, try and see how easy or not it's going to be to get them aligned and where I want. Put the pedals on, put the wheel on, and then see how if there's any adjustments I need to make on the cockpit itself to get it to fit me. We shall see how we go. Hi again. Well, as you can see, I've got my monitors vaguely set up for now. Really promising. I was saying earlier on I was looking for that 180 degree field of view, just like we saw on Todd's video, so go and check the link in the description. And I'm feeling like, just with it very basically set up, not even checking how close I can physically get it, I'm feeling like I'm pretty much there. You know, I'm only a couple of inches off being at a complete 180 degree, and all I need to do now is go and get my wheel, get my pedals, mount them up, actually figure out where it is I need to be sat, and then I can figure exactly how close I can get these monitors, and then, yeah, hopefully it's looking pretty promising at the minute. There'll be lots of little tweaking, I'm sure, of just getting the monitors in just the right angle. I've not adjusted tilt swings a bit more yet. You can see we've got, you know, gaps, things that I've not fiddled around really yet. So yeah, next step, go and get my wheel, go and get my pedals, and see exactly where it is I'm going to be sat. I'm really looking forward to it. You know, this is feeling like a great little space. So we shall see. We'll be back in a minute. Well, welcome back everyone. Since last night, you can see I've got all of my hardware set up. You're probably just hearing the fan on my PC, I suspect, over my voice, but never mind, we'll see how we go. So just have a quick look at what I have got on my rig. So I've got a set of V1 Club Sport pedals. Quite happy with those on the rake now of the rig. So you can see there's a slight angle, what, like 25-30 degree angle, something like that. The only little adjustment I've made so far on my pedals is just on the throttle pedal. I've taken one of these spacers out on the throttle, so it sits a little bit further back. I was struggling to bring my foot back far enough to where I was comfortable with, but I'm quite happy with that now. I'm also running then a standard CSR wheel, and I actually came across the same problem as mentioned on Sim Racing Review about the angle of the mounting for the Fanatec wheel. So what I've actually done is I've only mounted one of the bolts. Not sure how much you're going to be able to see on the clip. So I've just mounted the one bolt just here, and it's allowed the back of the mounting just to pivot forward. And I've locked that in fairly securely. I don't think it's going to move anywhere, but it's just stopped the wheel from being angled, too far back. So for now, I'm quite happy with that little adjustment, and I might well be sticking with it. What I did find is that when I mounted my wheel, I realised I had the wheel deck mounting way too high, so I dropped that down right to its lowest level, and I'm much happier with that now. I've got my 3 monitors set up as well, 3 24-inch Asus monitors. I chose these particular ones. They're just sort of mid-range monitors, but I chose these particular ones for the tiny bezels that we've got here. We've got 6mm between where the display is actually shown and the outside of the monitor. So that's about the smallest bezel that I was able to find without going down the route of actually taking them apart. And at the minute, I'm really happy with the setup that we've got. Just fire up the replay that I've got sat here waiting. Yeah, so really happy with the setup that we got. I'm pretty close to having this 180-degree view. I think in iRacing at the minute I've got it set up at around 162, something like that. The seat is right back at the minute, so I'm actually sat more sort of here or so when I'm driving. I had to raise up the monitors a little bit more than I expected. So my original plan was to have the bottom of the monitor sat right on top of the wheel here, but actually that meant that when I was sat driving, I was sitting with my eyes about 2/3 of the way up my monitor, something like that. And what that then does is it just changes your perspective a little bit when you look at the objects on the side screen. So for instance, if I come into the corner here, because I'm looking down at it, it really feels like there's a joint here. It goes across and then down. Whereas if I come down to a straighter level, then it actually flows in a much more of a straight line as it comes across. So yeah, I had to get the monitors a bit higher than I originally planned, just to have the my eyes at the centre of the screen. Otherwise, yeah, pretty happy with the setup we've got. Let's try and go somewhere about where it is I'm actually sitting as I'm driving. Yeah, I've got this great field of view now. See into the mirrors nice and clearly. See the scenery going by quite happily, and it really is an effective environment to be sat in. Really quite happy with how it's looking like it's turned out. I've got a little bit more tweaking to go, I suspect, and just getting the monitors exactly where I want to be, getting my position exactly right, but I'm pretty comfortable in it already. So yeah, the main point of this, we said, was for the review of the monitor stand itself, and it's been able to do what I was hoping it was going to do. I've got all of this adjustment available, so yeah, I've really been able to get this angle in the screens that I wanted to say. I think iRacing says it's about 52 is perfect. I've actually got it set up more like 65-degree angle between here and the monitor coming out. Just that's where I felt natural. I felt happy with it. Any little problems with the monitor stand itself? Well, it's a little bit fiddly to get them actually lined up and get them set straight here. I've got quite a clean edge here now. I'm quite happy with that. But on the other side, there's quite a bit of drooping on the right hand screen. So I've got a slight drop here between the tops. But then actually the monitor then goes away at a slight downward angle. So I've gone through and tried to tighten up all of these little bolts here in the joints, make sure nothing's loose, and doesn't seem to be. But it's just, it droops a little bit. I can't notice it at all when I'm driving. But there's just a slight step in the top of the mirrors. But I guess for all that adjustability, all of that amount of flexibility that you've got in the monitor stand there, there's perhaps going to be that little bit of play. So I'm going to email Leo at GT Omega Racing just to see if he's got a suggestion for how I can get that monitor, not to droop quite so much, but just to sit up a little bit higher on this side here. But otherwise, I'm really quite happy with the setup. Any other adjustments that I made since I was here last night? I don't think there was. I think otherwise, I've had not too much trouble getting the game itself up and running on 3 screens. I'm going to need to stress test it a bit more with other cars on track, especially somewhere like Spa where we're running now, just to see what the frame rates can cope with. My PT is running an i5 3570K with just a multiplier overclock to 42 and a 680 NVIDIA 2 gig. And on my single screen I was running just permanently at 150 frames per second, fixed, locked, and at the minute the frame rate that the replay is showing actually is quite similar to what I was finding on the actually running the lap. So Spa's quite intensive. It dropped down to 65 frames or so every now and then, and it is discernible. I could just feel as I'm going around sharper corners, especially just the pan as I go across, there's maybe just stutters slightly. But yeah, I need to see what it's like with traffic around as well and see what we've got there. I've used the settings primarily from the hardware forum on iRacing, so I would recommend going and have a look at those settings there. On the sticky threads, I think Jacob Clean is the one that gets the credit for creating those, and he's done a great little job getting some settings for people to look to use and to go by from there. So I think really then that's going to be the end of my review. I might have a little clip on the end in a minute and perhaps me doing my first ever race with triple screens and see how we get on there. But otherwise I think that's going to be really wrapping up the review. A little bit fiddly, to put together initially, as I did say. I'm not the most DIY inclined, so I had a couple of little errors at the beginning, partly on my part. Maybe a little bit help, more detailed instructions as well can help. But really, otherwise, it's just a matter of tweaking and adjusting everything to get it into the right place and getting it where you want. And once I'd managed to do that, really very, very happy. So, it's obviously only the first day. I need to see how it goes. But it's done exactly what I was hoping it to do. It's fitted in the space just as I'd hoped as well, fitting across my room. So hopefully it's going to leave a little bit of space for the room to be used for other things. Lots of cable tidying to go. But otherwise, yeah, very, very happy. I'd highly recommend it. And triple screens is just what I'd hoped it was going to be. So I'm really, really pleased. Okay, thank you guys. I shall see you again at some point in the future. Bye bye. Short race.